welcome to how I bleach my hair at home during quarantine. So this will be really good for those of you who have virgin hair from root to end that you're looking to lighten. So I'm just mixing up my bleach now with the ratio that my specific bleach recommended, and I'm going to be using a 30 volume developer because my hair was in really good condition. It hadn't been damaged at all, and I just wanted to get a really good lift the first time through. But if your virgin hair is really damaged, I'd suggest starting with a 20 volume to be able to keep some of that damage away from the process. So once your bleach is mixed, just give your hair one last brush through and then start dividing it into 4 good sections. You can take it right down the middle of the head and then right down the apex right around your ears. So you got your 4 good sections, and you're just going to want to get on your gloves and start applying that bleach. So this was the most difficult part for me to manage because I'm just trying to saturate the ends and leave the roots out. And with my hair being so short, it was kind of difficult to manage. But no matter what, when you're first applying your bleach, you want to leave out your root section, or else you're going to get what's called hot roots, and that's when your roots develop faster than the ends because of the heat from your scalp is accelerating that processing time. So we're just going to saturate the ends all the way up and just kind of feather it into the root area. And one thing I want to do is I want to leave a shadow root all over my head, and one way of doing that is by taking your section and back combing it like this. It kind of diffuses the line that you get when you're applying your bleach, and then being able to see that blended shadow root into the blonde at the ends. I found that the technique really didn't work too well with my hair in the end, just because maybe my hair was too fine and the back combing method just, I don't know, didn't really suit. But it's worth it for you to give it a try if you want to get a nice blended shadow root effect. So moving on to the front sides, I decided to use foils just because it helped keep things a little bit more organized for me. And looking back, I realized that the foils in the front brought that portion up to be a slightly higher grade of blonde than the rest. It obviously does just change the developing process a bit. So if I could do it over, I may have just tried to foil my entire head instead of just the front sections. But learn from the mistakes. And still with these front pieces, I'm just saturating the ends in the middle section and then just feathering the bleach up about an inch to my root. And every so often I still tried to do that back combing method, but it really didn't do much for diffusing the lines. But it was worth a try. Okay, so by far the trickiest part was figuring out how to do my bangs. And so I'm just going in with bleach, trying to stay away from the root. And looking back, it wasn't a good idea. You'll see in the end that I really didn't get to saturate my bangs enough. They developed just slightly darker than the rest of my hair, so it kind of looked like I was wearing clip-on bangs because they just looked like they didn't really match my head. But I let everything process in a little plastic bag to keep in the heat, and I think I left that on for a good 30-40 minutes. After I washed it out, I put in a little hair mask and then saw the results. And of course, it's always really, really scary. It just doesn't look good, but that's okay. It's just creating a blank surface for you to work on with your colors. And I know the roots look really scary right now and just unblended, but it's okay because we're going in with a demi-permanent dye for our root tap, or root glaze, I guess. So while your hair is damp, you're going to apply your root shade just to the roots. You can go over the blonde a little bit, but it doesn't need to be too precise. It seems to blend pretty well just naturally. And so I'm just going layer by layer and applying that all over my head. So if I could, I would use demi-permanent dyes all over my head, but since I couldn't find the shade of blonde that I wanted for my ends, I had to use one of Wella's liquid permanents, which is, you know, like that T18 stuff that everybody always thinks is a toner, but it's really a permanent dye. And so I'm going in with a more beigey neutral blonde. And when you're dealing with a shadow root like this, I bet there's a better way to do this, but I just gave it a good brush through to make it look a little bit more blended. And like I said, looks kind of like I got clip-on bangs just because they're a shade darker than everything else. But yeah, I think it looked pretty blended. It looks like a pretty natural regrowth, even though it was sort of uneven if you looked under the layers a bit. So I gave my hair a good evaluation. It was feeling strong and really healthy still, so I went in with my second round of touch-up bleach, only using a 20 volume developer this time, just to help with damage control in the end. And so what I'm doing here is I'm going to go in and put in baby lights all the way up the two front sides. And there's a better video you could obviously find on YouTube somewhere on how to do baby lights. It's really not too difficult, but it really adds some dimension and helps to just look a little bit more highlighted. Also, the entire time that I was bleaching, I was watching The Office, so I just kind of kept laughing to myself, but kind of forgot that'd show up in the video. And so the back developed faster than the front, so I'm just wiping it out with some water and a towel really gently and just waiting for everything else to process in the front. And this is what it looked like without the foils in. And so after brushing it out, you can definitely tell that those baby lights around the front sides did do quite a bit to add a little bit of dimension, kind of diffuse the shadow root lines. And so I'm just putting that same toner back over the newly bleached blonde sections. Alright, this is how it turned out. And it's a pretty good color. Like, I could have stopped here. It looks fine, it looks presentable, and it's just about the tone that I was going for. But after really seeing it, I didn't like the warm tones anymore, so my thought process is if I could just add a level 9 demi-permanent ash tone over top of it all, maybe it could cancel out those warm tones. And I couldn't really find anything on YouTube saying that this was not a good idea or not, so I just figured I'd give it a try. And I bet Brad Mondo is having an aneurysm right now because this is probably not what you should do. So I'm just applying the toner to my damp hair, and in the end, this really didn't make much of a difference at all, and I wasn't too surprised. I think it was kind of a shot in the dark. I should have gone in with something that was more violet and blue toned to be able to get me to that ashy point. It never did. It didn't change much. It still left me with some kind of like yellow golden undertones. So my next bad decision was to go in again with another permanent dye over top of everything. And so I'm just going in with a 10 volume developer just to be able to deposit the color onto my hair and not lift anything anymore. And I just applied that everywhere. And just to quickly show you, this is kind of what it looks like now. I would have loved to achieve something that was somewhere in between the two tones that I had throughout this whole process. I would have liked if my hair was still a little bit lighter than this, but you know, it is what it is.